All right, I think it's time. It is time. Good evening. It is 7 p.m. I'd like to call the meeting of the Inland Wetlands Commission to order at this time. First order of business is approval of the minutes. Has everyone had a chance to take a look at the minutes? Any changes, additions, deletions? Entertain a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I thought this was, I guess it's close enough, I don't have the minutes on it. Old business. Yeah, this is right here. Oh, I didn't see the approval, it's not on this one, but I got it here. Clear cutting inland wetlands, upland review area without permit, James Farm Road, Willie McAllister. Is the applicant or his agent here? No. Okay. So, according to this, the applicant has provided the following. Wetlands, no application fee at this time, Kelly?
No, we do. He has submitted his application fee.
Okay, so we have that. The site plan, stormwater, project of narrative, sewage disposal, wetlands. So, we imposed a fine, and he paid it, I believe. Staff offers the following comments. Go ahead, Kelly.
Do you want me to read through those comments?
Only, or either that or just a
Yeah,
summary of it, whatever.
okay. They're just minor site plan comments and questions that I had, but nothing that would delay application acceptance.
Okay, so, in July, a $500 check was submitted. An additional $500 was submitted, but it's unclear. Do you have the whole application fee yet?
Yes, we have the whole application fee.
Okay, so, we decide whether it constitutes a complete application. Are there any comments from the commissioners about this application? Hearing none, I entertain a motion to accept it. Go ahead, Mr. Kapinski. Turn your microphone on.
I believe Kelly made these notes. It says the plans do not have a comprehensive legend.
Yes.
You know, that it would be nice to have a legend. So,
Agreed.
clearing limits are not depicted on the site plans. That's, I think, falls short there. Limits of a gravel driveway versus the paved driveway is unclear. I think we should have that information. So I think that we need to know this, we need to have this information before we could proceed with accepting the application.
I don't think so.
No?
I think if he meets the requirements of submittal, we should accept the application. We can then stand him up here and grill him on all these questions that you have, which are legitimate questions. But I don't believe we can hold up acceptance of it for those details. That's my opinion. I'm open to any discussion.
I'm sorry, I was just going to echo your thoughts, except can we accept it, accept the application with it noted that it's anticipated that these will be resolved
Exactly.
when it's presented, so so it doesn't delay it any further. We've been looking at this
No,
for a
well,
year.
here's the thing. we gotta move these things along. Whether it moves it along to an approval or a denial, we should try to move them along, I believe.
Yes, as I understand, as it was procedural matter, now I understand, yeah.
So, having said that, yes, sir.
But the first line about the upland review area in this location is 250 feet? I just am confused what this meant.
Yeah, there's just a note on the plans indicating a 150-foot upland review area, but it's actually 250 feet.
So was that still?
It's just an error
Okay,
on the
but
site
that's
plan.
still within the range? What is the, for upland review areas, how far away? Do you know what I mean? What is the limit?
I'm not quite sure I understand.
I thought there was a certain feet where it's not, it doesn't get reviewed, in other words, right?
Oh,
You know what
so,
I'm saying? Like-
yeah, that limit is 250 feet.
Oh, it is?
Yeah,
That
okay,
is the
yeah,
limit.
yeah.
Okay.
He just had a note, the note on the site
I
plan is
see.
just incorrect.
That's fine,
Okay,
Kelly.
all right.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I have a question. I'm a little bit confused as to how far along he is, or is there a stop on his project for reasons of any paperwork or any monies, or, I mean, I would like to talk to him, have him come in and find out what's going on.
Yeah, he did get a cease and desist, and he, as far as I'm aware, has not done any additional work on the site. And one of his neighbors has been in communication with my office if she sees any activity, so I'm fairly confident that he hasn't done anything. But he will have to come before the commission next meeting. Yep.
Anything else? Motion to accept by Dr. Chess, second by Dr.
Second.
Liskey. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next item. Construction of a 30,000 square foot warehouse, 815 Wooden Road, Assessor's Map. We accepted this application, I believe. And we now have to, we should address Kelly's comments. Kelly, you want to talk to about them?
Sure. I had fairly minor comments. One was regarding whether the wetland mitigation areas would have sufficient hydrology to support a wetland. Another, there just seemed to be two different landscaping plans that were somewhat in conflict with each other, and just wanted clarification on which we should be considering. Then more detail on the area surrounding the former plunge pool that I think has been changed, and then just clarification on limits of disturbance. But since this memo was sent to you all, Bill Kenny has provided some comments, and I think he's out here if he wanted to speak to some of those.
All right, so, is the applicant or his representative here?
Evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, everybody. My name is Robert Rosati. I'm an attorney here in Stratford. My office is at 3241 Main Street. Better? Or has it got to get closer? It's usually, it's over there. Oh, boy.
You put it on the wrong side of the thing there.
I'm going to screw this up. Maybe. Is it working?
Yep.
Okay. Again, my office is at 3241 Main Street. I'm also a resident of Stratford. I am here tonight representing 815 Wood End Road LLC. The location is 815 Wood End Road. This is a rare lot that was subdivided a few years ago. It's next door to RWS, and then there's a building in front of it. It's, it's a challenge property right now with some uses that I think wetlands and zoning want to see go away. It's underutilized. It has wetlands that are not feasible. And the plan is to relocate and replenish the wetlands and develop this property into a 30,000 square foot warehouse. After we hopefully receive your approval and the permit from this board, it's our position that it's a use that is allowable in the zone and fully complies with all building and zoning. And at this point, I think I'm going to have Mr. Bill Kenny step up and address the concerns that Kelly had, and we'll go from there.
Good evening. I'm Bill Kenny. I'm the principal of William Kenny Associates in Fairfield. I'm a professional wetland scientist, soil scientist, and landscape architect. Worked on this project in coordination and collaboration with the architect and engineer, which is Rose Tizo and Associates. You're familiar with them. So they designed the building and did the site engineering for the project. My firm was hired to go out and identify where the wetlands are on the property and then consider the condition of those wetlands and other areas on the property near the wetlands, and then work with Rose Tizo to develop a plan where we could improve wetland conditions on the property, which I believe we've done. And to demonstrate that, or for the record, we prepared a drawing that gets into the proposed wetland conditions. And also we prepared a report regarding the wetland mapping we did and a report regarding existing conditions and proposed conditions. About a year ago, I was before you on a very similar project, but that project was maybe 5 times bigger, West Broad Street, 1255 and 1297 West Broad Street. And so the two projects are interestingly very similar, just different sizes. And they were both former industrial areas that have been degraded, not kept up, abandoned in some way. And they both had these remnant little pockets of wetlands that were not functioning very well. And on that West Broad Street, we took a wetland that was in the middle of the old factory area, and that was eliminated, and we created a new wetland area off to the side. And your board approved that. So we use many of the same concepts here and same types of specifications that we had on that project. So I'll get into the details of this. This property is just under 4 acres, about 3.8 acres. And it has been used most recently for storage of various materials and equipment, and causing maybe potentially different issues with neighbors in the town, and as well as it doesn't have today really any stormwater management measures, things like that to help protect wetlands and watercourses and so forth. So at the back of the property, and this drawing that I have before you just shows the northern portion of the property. On the right-hand side, I have a map that shows the entire property. Wetland Road is here, and there's a narrow access way till you get up to the bulk of the property. There's residential properties to the north, and then other commercial properties west and east of the site. And today, this is pretty much an open yard in this area here, and then in the back is a woodland, shrubland environment. Some of the neighbors have encroached over time, so there was some lawn area in the back here, but otherwise it's woodland. The trees themselves are mostly native, but the shrub layer and the herb layer is primarily invasive vegetation. And due to past historic earthwork on the property over the decades, there wetland pockets here, isolated pockets that are basically just holes in the ground that formed either due to filling or excavation over the years. And they total about 500 square feet. So we looked at using a similar concept as the West Broad Street, where we propose a new clean development on the front half of the property. And it includes all of the stormwater management features that you expect today, state-of-the-art measures that are in compliance with the city code and state requirements for managing stormwater runoff for quality and quantity. So, and a 30 square foot warehouse with a parking lot. And then the rear portion of the property, what we're proposing is to create a wetland that is 5 to 6 times larger than this 500 square feet. So we had proposed about 3,000 square foot new wetland. And then based on some comments, the comments that Kelly provided, that has grown to be about 3,700 square feet now. So it's over 6 times the size of these 2 little remnant pockets that we're requesting to be removed. So we put the development up front, and then in the back, we have this buffer with the residential neighborhood. This will be entirely become a mitigation and enhancement area. We'll create new wetland here, and then we'll go in and remove debris, garbage, trash, debris, remove invasive vines and shrubs, plant quite a bit new trees to restore a woodland habitat here. We're proposing 96 native shade trees to be planted in here. And well, actually, that's just in the upland area. In the wetland area, there's another 16 trees. So it's 112 native trees, maples, oaks, tulip tree, white pine, American linden.
Is that big enough
So the project includes creating, restoring, and enhancing the existing woodland and expanding it, and then taking the 2 small wetland pockets that exist today, and they would be eliminated, but we'd create a new, higher functioning wetland that's both a better quality wetland, but it's also 5 to 6 times larger than the existing wetland. Included with our drawing are quite a bit of detailed information about the objectives of creating those wetlands, specifications about how they should be constructed, getting into the soils, the plants, and then also maintenance requirements, and then monitoring for 3 years. So it's almost the identical notes that West Broad Street had that you approved. So it has maintenance, has monitoring, and it has details about how to complete the work up front. And I'd be pleased to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions? Yes, sir. I have several questions regarding the stormwater drainage.
Okay.
So I'm trying to envision this. So the impervious footprint is going to be equal to about 2 football fields. The building alone is 100 by 300, and then the parking area, so that's a little less than a football field, and then the impervious parking area next to it.
Yes.
It's approximately, it's less, but
Right.
in the ballpark.
I couldn't tell you the area of well, I know a football field, 100 yards by, I'm
By
not sure.
150.
By 150, okay.
So you're a little
The
bit.
building's 30,000 square feet. This looks like, you probably have close to 2 acres of impervious surface with the building.
Okay, and then, say we get a lot of rain, and then it drains into the concrete subground, the concrete stormwater storage chamber.
Yes.
Now, what is the capacity of that, like in gallons? Like, and also, on the same subject, what would be the discharge rate of that?
Right. I'm gonna pull out the engineer's drainage report. I believe I have it with me in my file. I don't have that report with me. However, I know that they've designed this to deal with both quality and quantity. So it's an infiltration system. It far exceeds the quantity, the volume required for water quality standards. So the water quality standards are, volume is basically based on 1 inch of runoff off of impervious surfaces. It's close to 1 inch of runoff. So these are far exceed the volume requirements for that. And then what they did was they have additional storage so that for the larger storms, the larger, more infrequent storms, they provide detention. So they're gonna bring in water. They won't store the entire storm because it allows for some water to start to flow out. Once it fills up, water starts to fill out. But the peak discharge, they calculate what the peak discharge is today, and then they calculate what it is after the development, and then they size those chambers so that they can hold that water back and slowly discharge it so that the peak discharge after development doesn't exceed the peak discharge of what it is today for those larger storms.
So what is,
The-
I'm sorry.
Just in the report that Mr. Kenny referred to, if you look at page 4, it comes to a stormwater conclusion that it's able to, the system's designed able to handle the stormwater. Okay, that is part of what we submitted on page 4.
That's the report prepared by the project engineer, Rose.
That's part of our application.
All right, and then, I'm sorry, and then the water leaving the underground storage chamber goes into the wetland? It drains into the wetland?
Yes.
Okay. And what is the elevation of that wetland
Yes. So
above sea level?
the ground surface, the average, it's a relatively level area back here, and on average, it's around the ground surface is around 5. We're proposing that this is a shallow basin, will be at elevation 3, and mean sea level's around 3. Mean high tide.
So that's not very high in that part of town, so close to the marshes, where if you had a real heavy rain, like a hurricane or a big storm, and then you had a tidal surge, I'm just wondering if this area is going to flood. You know,
Regarding the elevation of the building, because I had this question from Mr. Rose, who's not, unfortunately not here, he had a conflict. But the building is going to be at elevation 13. That's what he informed me, and that's what his plans reflect.
And to be above the 100-year flood elevation. And so this wetland will provide 5 times the storage as the existing wetlands provide out there. So there's a benefit there, and this property certainly will flood, as all the properties in this area, they're below that 100-year flood elevation. So we are, for the smaller storms, we're providing substantially more storage, and at the same time, the subsurface storage is ensuring that the water moving in that direction, moving to the north into that woodland area, it's the same discharge or lower. It is reduction, the Rose Tizo report on page 4, table 6, 2-year storm, they're getting just over 11% reduction in peak discharge. 10-year storm, they're getting a 22% reduction in peak discharge. in a 25-year storm, they have a 21% reduction in the peak discharge. So with the wetland was designed primarily to improve habitat, but at the same time, it is providing some additional water storage.
But I'm just wondering if you get a big. I'm just wondering if you get a big storm, and the subground water storage chamber is filled to capacity. I mean, how many? Well, and then it's going to go into the pool that's only 4 feet above sea level. And it doesn't add up.
Well, today,
Yeah.
that same thing would happen. Yeah. So that's the thing. Under existing conditions, it's in the coastal floodplain. This whole area gets flooded. So you get to a certain storm size, and the neighborhood is going to be inundated. And so for the smaller storms, the 10, 25, we're providing that storage on site. Because you have potential flooding from rainwater runoff, and then you have flooding from tidal surges. So when there's a tidal surge, everybody gets flooded. When it's just the rain events, we've got it covered here. Certainly, a tidal surge is going to fill in that wetland under a hurricane, but the whole site's getting filled in with water, as it would today. So, and the smaller storms, until that hurricane happens, we get a storm every 3 days or so on average, and so now we're providing all that treatment that doesn't occur today by cleaning up the site and so.
And my last question is, these subground water storage chambers will need to be inspected and maintained. So who will do that? Do we have a contract, a legally binding contract of a party that will keep doing that?
That will be a requirement.
It's my understanding that'll be part of the building permit process. Our town engineer is going to require that with the permitting process. When the building's under construction, when Brian goes out to do his inspections.
Thank you.
Just a quick question. Kind of to piggyback a little off that, who's going to maintain the back area with the wetlands? Is anybody going to go in and check for garbage?
Can I just back up and explain a little? The property at 770 Wood End, which is adjacent, is owned by John Bria, who's in the garbage and waste business. He's also the owner of this property. So he's there. He's there. It's his business to maintain properties. So it's not going to be an absent owner. He's next door. This use is going to be adjacent to his use. There's also a building in front. We're building at a higher elevation than the building in front. But just so you know, and let me back up even further, Mr. Kenny and I and our client were at a meeting with Jay Habansky and Mr. Brennan, Daniel Brennan, and this was all at their suggestion, similar to the West Broad property that Mr. Kenny mentioned, to clean up this property, clean up the garbage, clean up the uses, and make a viable wetlands area, and just as important, create a buffer along the residential properties. So they're gonna be screened and buffered. So, there's going to be maintenance of it. It's a complete renovation and refurbishment of, the property and the wetlands area. It's gonna eliminate 15 different problems that are going on there. This was at the suggestion of the town planner, and that we're here first to get your permit. And this is a better project than a similar one you guys granted across the street at 885 Wood End Road. Very, very similar, where they took the wetlands and relocated them for a potential warehouse. But we don't have the problems that they did. They were in that limited wave action zone, which put a hold on that because of elevation issues. We don't have that. We're building a foot above the required elevation. We're not in the limited wave action zone that we have to worry about that. We've also designed this, again, at the recommendation of Mr. Bansky, so we don't have to go in for the 50-foot waiver of 3.14 with zoning. So this is a much better designed project than the ones that I referred to and Mr. Kenny referred to. And just getting back to your question, the owner is right next door. Thank you.
One last question from me. You said the inspection and maintenance responsibility was assurance was what Town of Stratford Department?
No. I believe building and engineering is going to require
Building and engineering.
that we hire a company to oversee that. It's not the town's responsibility, it's going to be ours.
To maintain it, to maintain the stormwater drainage system in perpetuity will be on you?
It's on our property, yes.
Do we have a legally binding contract?
Well, that comes with the building permitting process and the construction process. That'll be part of it. And if you want to stipulate that to that, absolutely.
Okay. I think that would be important, yeah.
No, it's,
My position is I don't think it qualifies for a public hearing. It's not that significant, in my opinion. I think we incorporate things Mr. Karipsky said and taking Kelly's comments. I think that's,
yeah.
it's up to you guys, but that's my feeling.
Is the public hearing, is the public in that particular area aware of what's going to take place? Have they been notified? That's all I'm saying.
I know. Mailings have not gone out for this because they weren't required. It's my understanding that mailings are only required if there's a public hearing. So mailings are, and again, my client is the major adjoiner, and he has talked to his neighbors down there about this. It's not a surprise to anybody. It fits into the neighborhood, and it's going to clean up a property that, and it's going to solve a problem for these neighbors.
Maybe you should have a public hearing then. Nobody's been notified.
I don't know if it's a question or a comment, but in terms of zoning, that's what you're saying. This is a commercial neighborhood. I don't think they're doing anything that qualifies them to even be notified necessarily.
Absolutely.
Is there, or am I missing something? By law,
I don't believe.
right? By law, if the zoning allows this 30,000 square
Exactly.
foot, the height, those requirements are met. Purely from a wetland, our purvey, right, our scope, I don't see it. So no, I
I
don't
would
think we
tend
need.
to agree, but
Go ahead, Kelly.
I'll just add really quickly, for wetlands, for this commission, they only need to notify, as he said, if there is a public hearing, so.
Right.
And that's the same with zoning.
Yeah. Well, that-
Yeah, if we needed a variance, special case, exactly. That's our, yep. It was designed that way, absolutely, yes.
So my only question is, are we going to vote on it? Can we vote on this tonight, or
we could.
yeah.
is everybody
Well,
comfortable voting on it?
If we don't find it's significant and would go to a public hearing, we could vote on it tonight and approve it or not. So
What's your
first
thought,
thing we have to
your
do
thoughts,
is
Kel, on it? What's your thoughts on it?
continue on this public hearing thing. So we have that, we have your comment. You have a comment, Mr. Kropinski?
My comment was that engineering, if engineering could assure us that it's not going to flood except under the most extreme conditions, and number two, that the system will be maintained properly so that it will work as it should. With those two qualifications, I would say I would be willing to make a move on it tonight.
All I'm saying is,
Anything else?
if the people in the back get flooded, you're gonna hear it.
I'm
Because
sorry?
they're moving the wetlands now, a little bit.
I can't hear you, speak up.
They're moving the wetlands a little bit, right? They're making it bigger in one area, in back where the houses are.
Right,
Right, and there's people living in that area. Well, that's the concern.
But I think, if I'm listening to the information correctly, I think that's going to make it better for them.
It might.
Well, I mean, it might not too, who knows?
Yeah, I understand that, but you get the complaints later. Ever since the building's been built, we get water. This is what you want
But
to
there,
avoid.
no,
I think.
I don't feel it needs a public hearing. I've been through many of these, and I think this is small enough development. But defer to the commission, whatever you guys
Yeah.
want to do.
I would just like to, I'm wondering, like, if the 7 or 8 or approximately people that are adjacent to this property all of a sudden start, their basements start filling up, you know, when we get a good rain and stuff, then who's going to be
I know that.
liable for that?
I mean, last night we had that joint meeting, and this whole area floods, it's already established.
I think if you look at the plans, they're higher
Right, Joe?
than we are.
They do.
Oh, if they're higher, then that's one thing.
Yeah, that just,
If they're higher and they start getting water, that's another thing.
Maybe we could add another stipulation that, along with the two that Mr. Korpitsky requested, that a letter just be sent out to the adjoining property owners, letting them know what's going to happen.
Is that something that could be done legally without a problem?
I'm not,
we could informally let them know.
I-
We have no legal requirement, but
I think you have to decide you're gonna have a public hearing or not.
Yeah, I don't think that sending out letters post-hearing, that doesn't give them an opportunity
No.
to speak and, comment. So I would suggest that if you don't think there's a significant impact on the wetlands, you just create an approval, or you make a motion to approve with the conditions that, you have a contract for the
Yeah.
maintaining of that water and all your other conditions. All those conditions can go on an approval. And sometimes what you can do is just say, okay, we're we're not going to have a public hearing, but maybe we'll wait till next time to vote where we have an approval, suggested approval with the conditions that, you know, Kelly is comfortable with or anybody else wants to add. So you could vote on it tonight, just make sure you get your conditions on there. Or, you know, you could defer the vote without actually having to go to a public hearing. But I wouldn't try to do notices if you're not going to do a
No.
public hearing.
You either go to public hearing or
Either go to public hearing or don't.
I have a question. At what point, during a project like this with a residential area in the back, how do those residents know that this is a proposed plan, or how do they actually know that this may take place?
Public notice, it's public.
Okay, so it doesn't have to be a hearing, you know, as long as it's posted as,
This is not in secret.
right. So as long as they know about it,
Well, it's available if they read the paper.
yeah, I understand that, but again, I mean, potentially, this particular area, because they're creating a bigger wetlands, it's almost guaranteed to reduce some of the flooding that's going on, because a lot of that's gonna drain into the wetlands, okay? But again,
That's the key comment of the night, right there.
Right,
that
okay,
we're
but
trying to
again,
impress
I
upon
don't live in that area, so again, you know, I don't know what kind of flooding they get now versus, you know, a year from now. That-
And I don't think there's ever been an issue with this property flooding the neighbors in the back, and with all this,
Can I ask a question? What street are the houses in the back of this property on?
give me a second.
It's like they're on Larkin.
Yes.
Larkin,
Larkin Court?
yeah. There's a lot of, you know, relatively
So,
uniform but smaller lots, yeah.
but basically,
Larkin
If-
Court.
right,
um,
if you create a wetland, by definition, you're creating a low spot for water to run into,
Exactly.
not water to run off of.
With the design and the engineering and all the site work and the replenishment, it's a costly
Yeah.
job that my client is willing to undertake, and it's going to alleviate, not add to a problem. Exactly.
I just want to add one thing. I'm very familiar with that area. I'm down there all the time in my duties as a constable. And anything on that site would be a vast improvement. Anything. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah, I agree with you totally, and I'd like to make a motion that, I mean, this is a vast improvement. This, if anything, is gonna decrease the flooding of any neighbors and certainly be much more sightly. And I make a motion that we do not need a public hearing, and that we accept the proposal with certain stipulations. One of the other stipulations I'd like to consider is that most of the time we talk about a 3-year maintenance of the area, you know, being treed, and wonder if 5 years might be more effective with the invasive species, with so much going on in our environment, that might be more effective.
So, I understand. You make a motion to approve this application.
Right.
Stipulations of Mr. Korpisky about
Right.
maintenance and inspection of the
Right,
retention
Yeah.
systems.
yes.
We got to do that.
And I wanted to add to it that the maintenance on the treed area, the wetlands, be 5 years as opposed to 3.
So there's a motion, right? I'll second it. Aye.
Thank you. Appreciate your attention to this and the time you took up tonight.
Thank you.
19-lot residential subdivision, north of Broadbridge Avenue, west of Ronald Rock, west of Teakwood, east of, anyways, Teakwood Estates. Is the applicant or his representative, or her representative here? No. Okay, we have nobody here. So Kelly, you have a ton of comments. But the main thing that we got out of Kelly's comments is, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, in her opinion, although there are 2 pages of comments, this represents a complete application. Is that correct?
This represents a complete application, kind of like how we were talking earlier, where all of the required documents have been submitted. Yes, we have some questions on the details of those documents, but everything that we require for a complete application has been submitted.
Because one of the things we want to do is not keep tabling things and pushing them off. We want to move them along, whether it's moving them along to, or, move them along. So if this represents a complete application, are there any comments on whether or not this application is complete?
I just want to ask Kelly, have they contacted you with any of your questions? Have they done anything?
Not yet. I did supply Chris Russo, their attorney, I supplied him with the comments, but they have not responded yet, no.
I'm just wondering why they aren't here.
I'm not quite sure. He did email me asking if we could move this to a public hearing immediately, but I told him you have to be before the commission. It's a commission's decision, and I haven't heard back, so I'm not quite sure.
We could also deny it, too.
Well,
I'm just saying, it's,
the first thing we have to do is accept it.
well, it is accepted.
No, we didn't accept it yet.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong.
We haven't accepted this
Okay, I'm
as a
sorry.
complete application. The first thing we have to do, no matter what we're going to do, is accept it as complete.
I'm sorry.
Regardless that Kelly has 2 pages of questions, she gets to grill them when they come before us with a complete application. So the question before us is, should we accept this as a complete application?
Well, Kelly says it's a complete one, so I think we have to accept it.
Right. That starts the clock, and the clock, it ticks both ways, for and against, so.
So I'll make a motion to accept.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Do we have any discussion of that?
Can I make a recommendation? That if any of the commissioners have questions now that they can add to Kelly's, they should add them so that in these next 30 days before we have the public hearing, that they can be working on anything that you already know. But
Right.
a little disrespectful for them not to show up, but I agree that, if it's complete, you should move
And
it along.
accept it.
Yeah.
Dr. Chess.
I wonder, this is going to be a pretty contentious public hearing. I think there's going to be a lot of noise. And there's going to be assertions made by them in terms of runoff, and I wonder if we should have our own engineer here to help us.
We can get to that point
Make a public,
after we accept it,
got it.
and she starts to ask them questions. At that point, you guys can say, you know what, we need a second opinion, and we're going to hire XYZ.
Right, but we won't have that till, because the next time we would be meeting with them would be in a public hearing.
No.
Isn't that correct?
No.
Oh, okay.
Next time you meet with them, they'll be here
Got
to
it.
put on a dog and pony show for the
Right,
commission
right.
and answer questions. At that point,
That makes sense, thanks.
you can
Right,
come up with, do we need a third, outside opinion,
right.
and you can call for it.
I do have a question. Can the commission, if it's accepted now, can a motion be made to begin retaining a third party, or do we have to wait until the next meeting to do that? I'm just thinking.
I see no reason why you can't front-load that and get started with that.
Okay.
As I said, I would prefer that they were here just to deal with these housekeeping matters, but, you know, I would tell them, I would give them your comments, any comments we have from the commission, and that the commission has made a determination that they're gonna need a peer review or you know,
Right.
engineering, yeah.
Okay, so,
We already have the motion and the second.
we have a motion and a second. Would anyone like to amend that motion to include retaining a firm to do a peer review?
Aye.
I second that.
All right, so, is that gonna be okay?
Yeah, so just amend your motion to include this, you know, new provision that you're gonna have a peer review.
Yeah. Okay, so so we're gonna accept it, and we're going to retain somebody to do a peer review.
Third-party engineer?
Everybody understands that?
Yes.
Any further discussion?
I just like to say one thing. I want to be able to give Kelly the authority to hire who she feels, if that's okay.
Right.
I did want to ask a question on that. So we've seen a similar application before the commission in the past. Can we use that same third party, or does it need to be different? I think that's something we might want to consider as well.
I think it needs to be different. I mean, are you saying they have already some expertise on the
Well, we
property, or?
hired somebody before.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do we
That-
have to go out to bid?
I'll figure that out.
Okay.
No, but there's no reason for you not to use the same, especially if they're already familiar with the property.
All right, so. Anything else? All in favor?
I just feel compelled to make a comment. I know Kelly's got it listed about the turtle survey, so in light of the, you know, imminent public hearing, and we know that wildlife will be concerned, I'm just adding that we absolutely, yeah, we're gonna need to know what kind of
Right.
wildlife impacts turtles are gonna be
Oh, yeah.
a big deal. So it's just a comment, it's just discussion.
Anything else? All in favor? Oh, go ahead. Anthony.
Just another concern, I don't know, I hope this is the right time to bring this up, again, to be ensured that post-construction maintenance of the stormwater systems will be followed and complied with. Because these 19 lots, I looked it over, are going to be using the Caltech systems.
That all comes up
Yeah.
later on.
Yeah.
Anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Question now, when the applicant comes before us, at that point, we can request a public hearing?
The next step
Yeah.
is for the applicant to come and make his pitch with his whole proposal and to respond to comments from the commission and from staff. At that point, you have to decide whether it's a significant proposal or not. If it's significant, you're going to go to a public hearing. And then we'll go through all that stuff.
And then following the public hearing, then we would...
Following the public hearing, you could continue the public hearing, or you can vote on it, up or down.
And I did want to add that there's 3 different ways to get to a public hearing. It's whether this commission determines it a significant impact activity, or if we have enough petitions from the public, I don't know the quantity off the top of my head, or if the commission thinks it's in the interest of the public. So there's 3 different pathways to get there. Just wanted to remind you all.
No doubt this will go to a public hearing for one of those 3.
All right. And should we submit any questions now, or we can do it via email?
There's nobody here to answer any questions, so.
No, I mean for Kelly.
You can certainly submit questions by email to Kelly, and she can include them in
Oh,
the
all your
information.
questions
'cause-
go to Kelly, that's for sure, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what you're doing now is you're gathering as much information as possible, and it's better to have the lead time, just even if you're putting on if Kelly is telling the applicant, you need to make a provision for the maintenance of storm drainage moving forward. So it's kind of like a checklist of the things that the commissioners are going to expect, rather than telling them, 2 meetings from now, oh, hey, now we want to make sure you're going to maintain that. If you just give them the heads up that you're going to expect that, then they address it, and then if you're unhappy with it, you can tweak it.
Fair.
I mean, we had, up there on James Farm Road, I think we had, I don't know, 5 or 6 public hearings? Kept getting continued and continued and continued, so anyways. Okay, so moving on. Staff reports, Seth.
All right, so I have our conservation intern compiling all of Connecticut, or not all of Connecticut, but ones that she could find online for Connecticut native planting lists from other municipalities, organizations, nonprofits, et cetera, for consideration by the Conservation Commission to ultimately compile a preferred native planting list for developments in town. So she's just working on compiling them all around the state, and then the commission will weed through and determine what they think is best suited for Stratford. And once that is prepared by the Conservation Commission, it'll come back to this commission, and we will be able to give it out to applicants. So we're not volleying back and forth on planting lists. So that's underway. Yep.
Will that include kind of a density of plantings?
I didn't hear the word,
The
what?
density, so if you have 1,000 square foot,
Mhm.
what would be the anticipated density of plantings? How many, trees, how many bush, what kind of density? So there's a whole literature now on these almost microforests.
Yeah, we've been talking about them in Conservation Commission, yep.
Right. So I think density actually matters
Mm-hmm.
and might be a consideration.
Okay. Fortunately, our chair is out in the audience for Conservation Commission. So that's all I have for my staff report. Under my administrative report, I issued 2 administrative permits. Application 2023-18A for the construction of a maintenance garage at 567 Main Street. And then application 2023-19A for construction of an addition and some site regrading at 66 Pumpkin Ground Road. And that is all I have.
Okay. I don't have it here in front of me, but the next thing is Commissioners Forum, anything?
Yes, I have something for the Commissioners Forum, Mr. Chairman. The attorney here said that the inspection and maintenance responsibility of the stormwater retention systems was the job of building and engineering to ensure. He said that right here. And I'm just wondering, I was a little confused of that because then we wouldn't have to make that a requirement before pending approval, our approval. If there already is a department that's going to ensure inspection and maintenance, so that confused me.
I don't think that is true, what he said. I don't think we have staff capacity to
Yeah.
inspect every private property's stormwater infrastructure.
I agree with you. I have my doubts.
Well, wouldn't it have to be part of our approval that they have to maintain it? They gotta maintain, we could always say, make it part of our approval. We were through that with the Storm Tech people. We were
Yep,
talking
yeah,
about.
that can be a condition of approval, and it even could
Stipulation,
be a deed restriction. We
Yeah.
could make the condition be that it's filed on the land records that they are responsible in perpetuity.
I mean, it's to their benefit to maintain it, I would imagine. I mean, they don't want it clogged up either. That's why Storm Tech was very, enlightening on that subject, how they maintain it and everything.
you need it to work as intended, and you need to inspect it and maintain it.
You know,
Yeah, I think the idea is for you to put it as a condition on your approval so that you can enforce that, so that they're obliged to do it. And then it really should be a private agreement, and no different from, you know, a pool maintenance agreement. You guys gonna come out every whatever, he's gonna make sure that everything's working, and then he's, you know, you could expect a report. So you might say, every year we wanna see a report that the storm drainage has been maintained, and it could be a simple one-page, we went out there and we did X, Y, Z. But that's, you know, that's the way to look.
I think as we look at this, people stand before us, but 10 years from now, they may have 3 other owners. And so, and they're not, so unless we build it in, as you said, it's just not gonna stay. And to have some kind of reporting that's required on a even 5-year basis, we don't wanna be overly cumbersome, but some way of having to have reporting on it. Or a real penalty that if it's found that you haven't maintained it, that there's a real stiff penalty that goes with it. Otherwise, it's worthless. No one's going back looking, no one's double checking. So there has to be real mechanisms in place. And I was hoping that as we did the regulation review, that we could actually build that into it, because this comes up on every single application. There's nothing, every time we're talking about drainage, this is there.
I agree. We need to stipulate a penalty for noncompliance.
I don't know if we could stipulate a penalty. What happens when properties aren't maintained, the town will come in and maintain them, and a lien will be placed on the property owner or the bank. That's really the only way to compel them, I would imagine, besides our putting in our deed, you know, like our restrictions. In other words, we're going to say we want it maintained. They maintain it for 2 years and they don't maintain it no more. What do you do? The town will come in and do that, and the town has to get paid back. So the only way to do that is to send somebody to deliver them a notice saying they need to pay it back, or a lien will be put on the property.
Right, but a penalty becomes what that lien could be.
Absolutely.
Right, so again, I'm not the attorney here, so I don't know.
What happens, Dr. Chess, is that somebody doesn't cut their grass, or there's an abandoned property. They find out Chase owns it. They got a $100,000 mortgage on it, and they got a $2,000 grass bill. They're not going to let that, they're going to pay that bill. They're not going to lose their property for $2,000.
Right.
That's the way, just the way it is. It happens. Depends.
So, let's say someone doesn't maintain a Caltech system. So the town, okay, neighbors are getting flooded, their yards getting flooded, basements getting flooded. All right. And then, now would the homeowner be liable for damages by basement flooding, damage to property in the basement, furnaces, hot water heaters, stuff like that? If they, especially if they had not maintained the inspection and maintenance plan that was a condition of approval.
I am not an attorney.
I think
I will defer to the attorney, but I would expect that would be between the 2 homeowners.
that would be a civil matter. So if you basically took water from your property and poured it onto the guy next door, he could sue you for that. But that doesn't really have to do with what we're doing here. But I do think we need to figure out the logistics of the best way to enforce it, so that, I think all these are great ideas. There are plenty of properties that, they get abandoned, they get boarded up, and then something bad happens, and liens are put on the property, that the town does do that. But it is a pretty cumbersome process. So let's see if we can't sort of streamline it, figure out
I think
how
it's
to
very
get
important what Joe and Dr. Chess said. It has to be incorporated in our approvals for anything, that these have to be stipulated. In our strongest language, that they need to be maintained.
If it's stipulated,
Has to be.
that gives the homeowner another
Right.
brick in his armor to say,
Yeah.
it was stipulated in 2022, and it's now 2000. Whatever.
And like,
It's a problem.
like Kelly said, and our attorney said, backed up by papers showing that they were there and who did it, what day, what time, and all that.
And you don't want the alarm system to have to be the neighbor telling you that I'm underwater. That's a very late alarm system. In healthcare, if that was the alarm system saying that you're dropping dead, we were in trouble. So you want to have a system in place that at least, again, on a regular basis, so there should be a deed restriction requiring maintenance of these culls, whatever they're called. And then with that they do a report to Kelly or whatever the office is, that the engineer office, saying that it's been inspected on a minimal of, whatever we think is appropriate, but every 3 years, something like that. You don't want to be overly cumbersome, but on the other hand, you want to be able to have a way that makes them accountable and it doesn't get lost. That would be my suggestion, some mechanism like that.
Something else, if the records of inspection and maintenance were to be submitted regularly, that's one way to handle it. On the other, to be submitted upon request. If there was any suspicion or just for any reason that, somebody from the town says, okay, we need to have a look at your inspection records. And if they did not maintain the records, there would be a penalty. You have to have a penalty or else people won't comply, may not comply.
Could I,
Hey, Tom,
could we,
is there such thing as a maintenance tax? Is there such a thing?
That's a really interesting question. I mean, I mean, what I was just sort of thinking, just off the top of my head, is, okay, what about if you said every year that maintenance company has to turn in just a, a simple single page that says, we've been out and we've maintained.
Right.
And then, is there some way that we could,
Pass the cost on.
right, or basically say, the cost would be, the applicant would be obliged to do that. And then what if we said, okay, if you don't turn in your paperwork, you're going to get X, or you're going to get a letter from us that says, where's your paperwork? So, it's to minimize the number of people that wouldn't do it. And so then we have to figure out whether there is an opportunity to fine or penalize, and then we need to, might need an ordinance for that or something like that. So, we'll need to figure out the logistics. But these are all good thoughts, and, let's work through that and figure out exactly how that would, could work.
Yeah, I was thinking more like the properties that are built there be taxed extra for the maintenance. And it could be in the tax bill, maintenance tax as well as property tax. I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't run across that before, but I see the point and the idea of it, because then you have a little kitty.
Right.
Where if you do have to do the
Right.
the maintenance, it's sort of like when we
like a
do
condo?
That's exactly what I was.
the tree has to live for so many years, or you have to replace it, and if you don't replace it, then we replace it, and that's a charge to you.
Could we, rather than try to solve it here, could we ask our illustrious attorney
Yeah.
to come back with suggestions for the commission?
Absolutely.
But you just made that comment that this is very similar to condo homeowner associations, right? So it's not, we're not inventing the wheel, but how applicable it is, right, okay.
No?
Yes. Before we adjourn, I would just like to, this is Tom's last meeting. Oh,
Okay.
Being this is Tom's last chair for the meeting here, he's actually resigning, so I would just like to personally thank him for serving all these years and sitting on the chair and directing everything. He's done a super job. And
We will miss you.
And Tom, thank you for all the times you reminded me to turn my microphone on, too.
Tommy, that begs the question. Are you gonna, how about the assistant harbor master?
Well, I haven't become a Florida resident, so if I do,
Okay.
Just so we can go, so yes, motion adjourned, so we could go off the record, yep.